Good evening. Welcome to our regular meeting of January 25th, 2021. We have 3 items for the public hearing this evening. I believe you're all ready. Josh? Good evening. I need a resolution, a motion to begin the meeting, moved by Councillor Patricia, seconded by Councillor Sylvie. Carried. Good evening, everyone.
So currently the R1 zone in Shediac only allows a single unit dwelling. So because the applicant is looking to build a 2-unit dwelling, a rezoning is required. So the process that's been followed for this application, it is council that decides the timeline. So council did an initial resolution on November 30th. The public hearing notice for this meeting was published on January 4th. The Planning Review and Adjustment Committee just gave their recommendation on the file, and that's kind of the recommendation that I'll be explaining throughout this presentation. The public hearing is tonight, and if council so chooses, they can proceed with 3 readings of the bylaw. So this is an aerial view of the property. Currently it's a vacant property located in between 2 existing dwellings. And you can see on the other side of the street there are there's an apartment complex as well. So when we're looking at the zoning of the property is located in an R1.
La propriété est située dans une zone R1, dans une zone déjà R3 et R2. Donc, il y a de la densité, ce que désire le demandeur, le requérant. On voit en rouge sur l'autre côté de la rue Webster qui permet des habitations multiples. Voici des photos du site. On peut voir la propriété à la droite. On peut voir les maisons et il y a un tampon d'arbres sur cette propriété. Une vue aérienne, c'est une petite propriété, mais le projet est petit aussi. Donc, on respecte toutes les marges de retrait. On voit des photos des maisons sur l'autre côté. Voici un plan de site présenté. Il s'agit d'un duplex, 2 unités côte à côte et toutes les marges de retrait sont respectées. Voici à quoi ça va ressembler. Maison en rangée qu'on voit souvent à Shediac depuis ces dernières années. Le plan municipal est le document qui établit la vision pour l'aménagement futur. Donc, il faut toujours s'assurer que le plan est respecté. L'objectif est d'encourager plus de densité au centre-ville. Le rezonage pour augmenter la densité sur ce site respecte cette politique. Il y a des usages et zonages établis déjà dans le quartier. Donc, cette proposition respecte les intentions du plan municipal. Nous avons des règlements de zonage à considérer. Le plan de site respecte toutes les marges de retrait et les normes. La couverture du lot est un pourcentage d'une surface construite. Habituellement, dans la zone R2, on permet 50 %, donc on peut construire sur 50 % du lot. Mais il faut respecter les marges de retrait. Ici, il s'agit dans une zone de puits B qui permettent une couverture de 35 %. Selon le plan du site, il semble que le requérant est tout près du 35 %. Nous avons eu des discussions avec le ministère de l'Environnement pour demander si on pouvait accepter une couverture plus importante. Ils nous ont dit qu'il n'y avait aucun souci d'aller jusqu'à 40 % pour accommoder ce projet et lui donner l'occasion de construire des terrasses un peu plus tard. Donc la recommandation du comité, on a voté à l'unanimité tout juste. Donc avec les prochaines étapes, c'est au Conseil d'entendre les objections, le cas échéant, et demander pour des informations supplémentaires où ils peuvent augmenter la couverture du lot, c'est le désir. Voilà. J'ai une question. La couverture du lot, est-ce qu'on comprend les autres surfaces comme les allées, les sorties? Non, seulement l'immeuble lui-même, ce qui est sur la fondation. Any questions from members of council? No questions? Et y avait-il des...
We haven't received any objections on this one. I don't know if there's anybody in the room who would like to speak to it, though.
Y a-t-il quelqu'un dans la salle qui avait des... Proceed. Ça, c'est la partie de la fonction de l'audience publique.
The next one. This is a public hearing. If we don't have a discussion, then this part is closed. So this is a public hearing for all three of them. We have two other subjects as well. And for the next ones, I have to leave the room. For Mr. Laforest case, because I have a conflict of interest. The other thing I want to mention is Councillor Germaine cannot be here tonight. She's at home, so perhaps she's listening to us. Is this one in English too? No, this one is in French. We'll do the presentation in French, and we'll have one for both items because both of them are similar. We've had two separate bylaws and two motions from the committee, so we'll explain everything. It's a bit more complex than the last one. This is a rezoning application from R1 to R3 for a property on Riverside Boulevard. These are two requests, two different buildings, 8 units each for 16 units. So we have a map. This is on Riverside Boulevard, south of Route 15. There's one property behind that would be bylaw 36Z, and the other one closer to Riverside is 37Z. These are the two that we're treating, 2 units on 2 properties. So the deadline for this file As I said, it's the council that will establish it. It started the process with a resolution on November 30th, 2020. Public notice was published on January 4th, and the committee meeting was held just now, and there was a favorable decision on both files. Public hearing right now, and if council decides to proceed, we need 3 readings before adoption. So here's the aerial view of the 2 properties. We have 2 bylaws. This is a 3D view, which shows what development exists in this neighborhood. So Riverside South on the 15th, you can see it on this view, is very rural. It was developed in a normal, traditional way. Rural density has houses close to the road and others behind. So today it will be a bit different from what's here with apartment buildings. Here is a site photo of the entrance, the driveway for the 2 buildings. It's used now for the houses that are in the back. In the rear, we talked with the chief firefighter and asked if it was safe, and he said we must follow the building code for the driveway, so it would have to be improved to accommodate both buildings. So that would be the responsibility of the applicant to improve it. It's a private street, and it's gravel. After Riverside, it becomes private access. Here's another photo. You can see houses. So development would be behind that to the left. Here's the site plan. You can see both buildings will use 1 entrance. There's a unit, 8 units on the left and 8 on the right. So those are the 2 rezoning applications. In the back, there's a house that you can get to from Riverside. For this project, we need 2 variations for the building. For the building on the right, we have parking spaces in the front yard and accessory buildings in the front. It's a reasonable request because it's behind the other building. You won't see it from the road. And they'll only use 1 access, and it'll be the same property as the one on the right. There has to be an agreement registered for right-of-way to guarantee access for the other building. Here are the elevation. They're not the best quality, but I think you can see. They're typical apartments for this region, and they're 2 stories high. It's more density than what there is there now, but not too much for this neighborhood. The existing zoning is R1, and you can see on the south of 15 is mostly R1 as well. The municipal plan helps us to evaluate these rezoning applications. In the plan, we have principles to encourage different types of homes. And we have found in the last few years we need more apartments in Shediac. So this will help to minimize this gap. We have principles as well for this part of town, and one of them is to encourage new residential developments on vacant land. medium to high density. So here we have vacant land, so we can go to a medium density. As well, we have proposals to maintain the integrity of the residences adjacent. Our opinion is that what is proposed, 2 units or 2 buildings, 2 stories high, is good. But we have conditions that we recommend to council to ensure that the development will go well and respect the plan. We had consultations with the municipal operations, the director, and said that this would have a private access from Riverside Drive. So there's no snow removal or garbage pickup. That would be the responsibility of the owner. Water services as well would be private, and the applicant would be responsible. He would have to give proof of private service easement before we could deliver a permit. We received comments from the Shediac sewer system for right-of-ways to ensure that each property will have its own sewer system. So we will need this if you approve the zoning before we can issue construction permits. The properties are now situated in a restricted zone because we have capacity problems with the sewer system. So there's a zone where the commission will not approve more than 50 residential units. When we received this application, there were already 36 that were approved. So we decided we could add 8 units, and that can be approved, but there's not enough space for 2 buildings. So if council approves this project and the sewer system is not improved, then we could probably refuse the permit for the other building until we can get a approval of the sewer system. The chief firefighter said that he doesn't have enough information on the driveway into the buildings, but he said that if it respects the code and standards, that it should be okay. The national code includes information, a grading for service for the highway, standards that must be met. So in the construction permit phase, we'll have to make sure that the building is in conformity with the code for the firefighters to authorize it. The property in the back and access, so we have conditions recommended for council for this bylaw. The first condition was to limit the number of units to 8. It must be in conformity with the attached plan and elevation drawings. The 3 PIDs have to be consolidated before the beginning of construction, and there are conditions to approve parking in the front yard. It's reasonable because it won't be visible from the road. Approval has to be made by the Shediac Sewage Commission before issuing a building permit, and it must be consistent with the firefighting provisions in the National Building Code. The second bylaw is 37Z, and that's the one that's the closest to Riverside. The conditions recommended to council was to limit the number of units to 8, ensure that the project be developed in conformity with the attached plan and elevation drawings, that approval from the Greater Shediac Sewerage Commission be received prior to the insurance of the building. A right-of-way agreement must be submitted before the issuance of a building permit. People living there will always have access to the other building, and the project must be consistent with the firefighting provisions in the National Building Code. The recommendation that just took place was positive. So the next steps, the council could refuse the request, put it on hold, or approve the request with conditions. And then 3 readings. Councillor Platt. Yes, I don't have any problem supporting this project, but there are residents all around it. Is there a drainage plan required? Yes, there will be one as part of the construction permit, but it wasn't something that was surveyed by Mark. We received an objection. We could read it tonight. Councillor Laura, I wanted to ask about the driveway. Does that belong to someone? Right now it belongs to the owner that is building these units. Thank you. So I will read of the objection we received. Bonjour, je vous écris à propos de l'arrêté de zonage sur ces NID. Ces 3 NID et les arrêtés Z36 et 37. Je suis fière de vivre à Shediac au 269 Riverside. Nous sommes en ville, mais c'est tranquille, peu de circulation. Il y a beaucoup de familles et des voisins et tout le monde se connaît. C'est pour ça que je suis contre cet aménagement. Nous n'avons pas beaucoup de circulation. Les enfants sont sur ce boulevard presque tous les jours. Il n'y a pas de trottoir. Donc, avec 16 unités de plus, où il y aurait plus de personnes, beaucoup plus de circulation. Donc, nous sommes préoccupés pour la sécurité de nos enfants. Parfois, les gens devraient stationner sur la rue des 2 côtés. Donc, une seule voiture pourrait passer. On ne verrait pas les voitures qui roulent vers vous. Ce n'est pas idéal le matin quand les enfants marchent jusqu'à l'école. Aussi, il y aurait beaucoup plus de bruit, surtout pendant la construction, et il faudra arrêter l'eau. Parfois, il n'y aurait pas d'avantage pour nous. Si on voudrait vivre dans une ville, on déménagerait. Il s'agit d'une pandémie ici. On veut rester ici. On a de la chance de vivre où il y a beaucoup d'arbres et de la faune. Nous sommes heureux ici. Thank you, Josh.
Question pour les membres du Conseil? Moi, j'en ai une. Bon,
I have a question for members of council. On Chesley and Bowbridge, the transition are two or three. There's not, we only have 8 units. So your opinion is that that's okay? It's not an exact science. I think the height of the building is okay. We have 2 stories. All the houses around there have 2 stories. The number of units is 8. We wouldn't want a big project on this land, but this is small enough. And it meets all the principles in the plan as well. Thank you for the information. I would like to add that the buildings and existing land, the lots here are bigger than within the urban areas. And there's more green space, more separation, bigger yards. So this will be minimized by that fact as well. No questions for members of council? Were there any objections from people in the room?
Back up, and you would have come up to the mic, but hand sanitize if you, it's there. Merci beaucoup.
Mon nom, c'est
I'm Mathieu Leblanc, 316 Riverside Drive. And just like the letter here that you just read, I've lived there my whole life. It's quiet, and we would have more traffic. I just wanted to give you my opinion. Right now, everything's quiet. It's not much developed. I would like to keep the zone to zone 1. Members have any questions? So we'll close this part. No, this is all we had. Perfect. So I would need a motion to close the public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. Carried. So we have a break for 2 minutes for the regular meeting of council.
Toucher le bell.
Le recording, tu peux le laisser.
I can see? Okay. Cool. Ouais. Thank you. Elle est revenue. C'est là qui est cassé?
Oui, oui, c'est correct. Il y a quoi de différent dedans? Ça pourrait s'inspirer.
Regardez, je vais faire disparaître moi-même.
Good evening. Welcome, everyone. We're going to start with O Canada. Now for the reflection of council. As municipal councillors, we are committed to be favorable to our community, and we're responsible to always have a good judgment during our deliberations, and that all our actions be efficient, inspired, and oriented in the interests of the citizens of this town. So good evening again, councillors. I'm sorry about our technical glitch during the hymn. So we have a quorum for the meeting. Any conflicts of interest? Councillor Siffy, many times during this meeting, I'll have to leave the room because I have conflicts of interest where it concerns Mr. Laforêt. Twice you'll have to leave. Okay. One part it's rezoning, and the other part is for ordinary motions. So you have the agenda before you, moved by Councillor Raymond, seconded by Deputy Mayor Patricia. Councillor Laura, I would like to add at 11.3 City Hall, unfinished business, and at 10.52 recommendations of the Commission. Moved by Councillor Raymond, and seconded by Deputy Mayor Patricia as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye, contrary minded nay. Carried. So we know what's on the table for tonight. Adoption of minutes. 5.1. Minutes of November 30th, 2020. Are there any questions? Councillor Gilles. Thank you, Your Worship. Item number 6.1 from the last meeting, the presentation from Jean-François Dugas, and I asked questions. When will they be answered? Mr. Brault, somebody is looking after this. It's the last meeting. At number 11.2 of the agenda, we'll treat that. Councillor Poit, on page 14, We talked about it tonight, the upcoming project, the exchange of lot for AML and the work. There has no work being done on that land, the one that was ceded. No work will be done until these lands will be ceded. Other question? Can I have a motion to adopt the minutes? Moved by Councillor Raymond, seconded by Councillor Jean-Claude. All those in favor? Contrary? Carried. Number 6, public presentations, petitions. We have none. Next point, correspondence. Municipal manager, 7.1, yes. On page 22, the first letter is from Nadine Mardin, Executive Director of the Tree of Hope. She's thanking us for a contribution that we do every year. Page 23, this is a request. Mr. Jacques Laforêt is asking us to amend street names approved by council a few years ago. He would like to change Simone Galland Street to Jacques Street, and he would like to change. I'm sorry, I didn't indicate this, but I'm going to have to leave for this one too. So the first request, he would like to change Simone Galland Street to Rue Jacques and Croissant Jadny Crescent to Croissant Simone Galland Crescent. Councillor Paul, any questions? I have no problem with this, but shouldn't it be approved by 911? It's already approved. There streets, if we change them, we'll advise 911. But all the names are approved when we present them to council. You just have to accept the amendment. Yeah, for emergencies. Yes, we don't want 2 streets with the same name. Perfect. Thank you. So we'll need a motion. No? Yes, to approve the name changes. Moved by Councillor Paul, seconded by Councillor Jean-Claude. For the question, all those in favor? Against? Carried. Councillor Sylvie can re-enter the room. Thank you. That was kind of you. Page 24. The next request is from Madame Joanne Léger, who's an expert in tennis, and she would like to meet the mayor or meet our councillors to talk about interior tennis courts. We talked about it last week. Perhaps ask Madame Léger to contact the Chediac Tennis Association, and perhaps they could come up with some ideas. Councillor Gilles, that's exactly it. We should refer that to the Committee of Community Life. I don't know the name exactly, the ones that take care of the parks, and they could look at this recommendation. I think this is the best way to proceed. Thank you, Councillor Gilles. I need a motion for that. We only have to answer the letter, that's all. So we'll refer it to the Parks Committee or a tennis association, a community life. And they have expertise on building and lot, so it could be fruitful discussions they could have. Page 25, it's a request from Gérard Pellerin in the name of residents of Rue des Pellerins. It's about the work that was started on this road, Petit Pellerin. They want to repair another section, so they want 3 other pipes. It's not something we can give them. This is not municipal either. This belongs to the province. We had given them material in the past, but we don't have any anymore. There's none left. Any questions from councillors? Councillor Laura. Thank you, Your Worship. I think, Mr. Municipal Manager, that we should answer that we don't have this material anymore and tell him that the street is provincial. It doesn't belong to the town of Shediac, so they must go to the province if they want funds to fix it. They did a good thing. They improved infrastructure for people that are there, but perhaps it'd be a good idea if they should go there. Yes, I'd like to them. We have a letter from Environmental NB, Environmental Network. It's for a project for people that, Grand Penseurs that meet outside. So this is for the schools in the region if we want to contribute as a partner. Councillor Gilles, thank you, Your Worship. We could be partners on many things. They're asking for us to help them. There's no money mentioned. So we need more information before we can say yes or no, or even know if we're interested. Just asking us if we want to be a partner, but not telling us how much it's going to cost us. I can't accept that. If we could say yes, we'll be partners, and then it's going to cost us $10,000. Thank you, Councillor Gilles. Councillor Raymond. We should have input from schools as well. That would be good. Are they participating in this program as well? So we should probably call the schools if they know about this program. A representative of the school districts as well should take care of this. I have a letter from Unité Pastorale Providence. They ask us for contribution each year for salt and snow removal. We have this in the budget. Thank you, Your Worship. I move that we give them $1,000 from the 2020 budget. Moved by Councillor Sylvie, seconded by Councillor Laurent for the question. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Carried. Letter from Kelly Taylor from WW Transpo. They want to come and present activities that they want to do during the year. Mrs. Taylor called me. We would invite her on February 16th next to come and present to us. Okay, that could be a good discussion. So the last letter is from Rogers. They want to meet to install widebands in Shediac. So they want to meet council to see if we have a lot they could use. We could invite them to a meeting and they can give us the essential information. We have a better idea of what they're looking for. They have up until February 15th. We can contact them, maybe give them a support letter for now. So at the bottom here, they mention February 15th. We could give them a support letter. We could probably need access. We would need it. So perhaps we could prepare a letter in that respect. Councillor Shane, yes, we should have all presentations. Doesn't cost anything to listen. We should communicate with them, and we could ask the city manager to take care of it. So that's it for correspondence. Next point, number 8. Financial reports, page 33, a mover. I move that we accept the financial reports for 2020. Moved by Councillor Patricia, seconded by Councillor Gilles. Any questions on the financial reports? During the plenary, we went through it in detail. Councillor Pod, the revenues from Expérience Chidiac, what is that? It's from ACOA. We had a partnership for downtown. We had a partnership with ACOA. And for the Pointe du Chêne Wharf as well. That's not announcements, a website or anything like that. No. Thank you, Denis. Councillor Paul. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. Carried. So now, page 80. The police services, the report we received. Did you send it to all members? We just received it yesterday or today. Three-month report. Have you looked at it? The city manager sent it out today. I just scanned it very quickly. Councillor Laura, I have one point. I'm going to have a meeting with the Protection Committee in February, and this will be one subject that we'll mention. I hope our CMP will be there because I have questions. I saw there was a lot of changes between 2020 and 2021. It's not always for the best, and I would like to have some explanations, and I hope the RCMP will be there because they're not here tonight. I had a discussion with Corporal Rousset. He's our contact at our detachment here. I received information, and so I called him to get further details during the weekend. So the RCMP visited a private residence because there was a grouping of people. Several youth were there, and they were given fines. So we're in a red phase. It doesn't allow that. So all I can do is give a message to the public. Please follow these rules of Health Canada because it's for the good of everyone. Almost daily we have reports from Dr. Russell. And at least if Fredericton and St. John is going to go orange, so that's good. I hope we can get there too. We still have a little ways to go. Fire protection services. Our chief firefighter is here tonight. I'm going to make a bit of publicity for our firefighters. Each year they sell lobster to collect funds. So I'm asking everybody that's listening to please support our firefighters and our fire station to buy lobster from Shediac Lobster Shop, and part of the revenues go back to the firefighters. So please support them. And it supports another local business as well. So it's win-win. Councillor Paul. What is the what are you doing? You're putting water from one truck into another? I don't understand. Chief was explaining, l'eau is you're taking water from one truck and you put it into another truck, and then that is pumped into the fire. The interpreter couldn't hear. You were too far away. Next point. Construction permits. So these are figures up until the end of November. This is every 2 months. So we have updated figures here. We have a total of $24,874,000. So that was a good year. Councillor Poy, I have one comment. Congratulations, Danny and Administration Services. These figures are excellent. They don't fall from the sky. So it took a lot of initiative for Danny and the whole team. Kudos, excellent work. Thank you, Councillor Poyle. Councillor Laura? I wanted to say the same thing. I think he read my notes. Thank you. It's plexiglass. You can see through it. Councillor Gill. In fact, when you look at a year of 24 million, it's 3% of our tax base of last year. I think it's a very good increase. And we can tell the population as well with these big projects coming to the municipality. These figures are possible even in a COVID environment. We continue to progress well within our municipality. And we have to take difficult decisions sometimes with respect to zoning, but we have to have good decisions too, to not increase taxes. We have to increase our tax base. So we have to look good so that developers will come. We're demanding, however, and we have strategic choices to make. It's important to see that we have this great year, and we hope it'll continue. So this was tax base published by the province in October. The growth in Shediac was greater than that of Dieppe and Moncton, and it's not often we see that. We know their figures, they got a bigger tax base, but the growth was better. Your Worship, I would like to underline that we have a good cooperation with the regional services. Jeff and Jeff are here at every meeting, and PRAC helps us a lot. It makes a big difference, and the developers say that 2021 should be a good year as well. And it's a lot of residential, and we have to add more to the commercial aspect to add to the town. We have to put a lot of emphasis with it. Our tax base goes really well, but we have to put more effort into the commercial, and that's our mandate for the next few years. Thank you. That's the general manager. You can continue with your report. I wanted to mention, since the holidays, we're working hard with Home Matters project. The construction is going ahead. I can confirm that this week we'll have an agreement to present to council to lieu spaces. So lawyers are telling us it should be finished. We could present this week. And the city hall takes a bit of time. Councillor Patricia can confirm that. And the smart grid, I'd like to mention that's going well. Commercially, the multipurpose center is going well. Because of COVID, we're a bit late. So we're going to try to address that. The situation is very difficult commercially. Next point. Thank you, Mr. Municipal Manager. Now we're at recommendations of regional services commissions of the Southeast. 10.1. Jeff. You come back often. That means that we're a growing town, in part anyway. The first one is 35 said for Casey Street. The report is the same that was presented to the PRAC. So we have the conditions recommended in public hearing. It's just if you have any more questions from councillors. The request wasn't very complex. No questions. You can continue. Councillor CV, I'll have to leave the room for the next ones. Your Worship, we could pass the one receive while she's out for Guy Bouchard. So we'll do them both together if you're in agreement. So CV wouldn't have to go out twice. So we'll do 10.5 right now, recommendations of the Commission. Mr. Josh. For the land for public purposes, we want to add to a development that was already approved. Initially, we needed a second exit proposed here, but since then access is not good, so it's not necessary. So we have an opening for land for public purposes that was dedicated. So the plan will dedicate it along this corridor so that the municipality would possess it completely. And administration was in agreement with that. So it's just a question for the council to accept this land for public purposes. Where the trail is right now, Yes, the street won't be there anymore, so it's private land and there's liability. So we made that decision. So the resolution will be brought later this evening? Yes. Do you want to pass it now? Do it right away? Yes, because we're in a meeting. Councillor Paul, questions? So management proposes to buy this land to have access to the bicycle lane. The bicycle lane is already there, but the goal was that when the street came and we could negotiate, but now the street won't be there anymore, but development is continuing, so it's now or never. Decision was taken to include it in the plan today, so there's nothing new being built. And so land for public purposes, they're giving us that instead of giving us a cash amount. So I will need a motion to read it. Yes, I move that we accept the report. You want me to read the resolution? Public use land for Parley Estate Subdivision Unit 1, Phase 6, that we accept land for public purposes as shown on the plan, subdivision plan, Parley Estate Unit 1, Phase 6. I so move. Moved by Councillor Gia, seconded by Councillor Boyle. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried. Thank you. Now Councillor Sylvie can leave the room. "28 Richard Lane. This is a report. What we had at a public hearing. Any questions from councillors? Like you said, for the sewer commissions, you won't be able to build two of the buildings, only one. He'll have to decide which one he prefers. It's the same work. Perfect. No more questions on one or the other? So now we're at number 11. .4 rather. There's regulations of the commission here. Recommendations? They're both the same. So we have 36, 37. Oh, Sylvie has to leave again. It's a good thing. You're just taking more steps. The next item. So 10.4. 34 Z to change to 38 Z? Yes. Those are the three buildings on Bow Bridge. The application is to amend the bylaw with a new one to include the new land to be rezoned. So you'll have a resolution later to start the process. I signed a preliminary report with the details. We still are missing a site plan. Update it with the exact number of units. If I could have it soon, that would be good, because when the bylaw is published, all the conditions refer to the site plan, and I'm still waiting for that information. Any questions from councillors? None? Councillor Paul. Why does it go on either side of Bowbridge Street? I thought it was only the north or south of Bowbridge. On page 122. It looks like two triangles. There was another map sent after the meeting, and that's the portion of property that's going to be rezoned. That's a property in its integrity. But it's south of Bowbridge, north of Highway 15. It's on page 127. The map that represents the bylaw will include the maps of the portions of the lands involved. Thank you. Councillor Paul. So the big change here, so it's just housekeeping in a sense. But the other thing is for the parcel of the town that will be transferred, the exchange that was negotiated, that will have to be set in the bylaw, and then we have the number of units in each building from 89 to 95. The building form is the same, but they added something to the apartments, and now that we saw that there's more space, so a building we can put more people into it since it's bigger. No other questions from councillors? The resolution is on page 119. Councillor Gilles, thank you. To change a bylaw, whereas a Shediac Town accepted request to abrogate a bylaw Z 34, 44, 37Z to 38Z, just change the zoning for a portion of the land with number 7049 to zone 3 residential high distance for 95 units each. That council proceed to the study of the file to see if it's the interest of the public to change, amend this zoning, and to publish on the Town Planning Act for a public hearing to adopt such a bylaw to be held on February 2nd at 6:30 p.m. To hear the amendments. Councillor Raymond? Councillor Poir, I have a question. With COVID, do we have to do this in the council hall? Could we do it in the multi-purpose center. The first notice has to be sent next week, and we have to give an address at that time. Because if we have a lot of people in this context, if we go into lockdown, then we won't be able to have any meetings. So the only option would be virtually or not at all. We'll work with the commission and we'll mention the location when we send out the first notice. If we ever had a fire or anything in this building, like that would be an urgent matter. And COVID is just the same thing. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Gilles, seconded by Councillor Jamal. Carried. Now, can she really come in for the next point? Page 137. Welcome, Councillor CV. Josh. The next is a rezoning, an amendment to municipal plan for Providence Street. So I have a report for this request. It's 2 steps needed because there's an amendment to the municipal plan and a public presentation, a public hearing. So public presentation would be in February, public hearing in March. So if you have any questions on that? Any question from councillors? Councillor Paul, if you could proceed with the reading. Amendment to municipal plan and bylaw for Rue Providence. The council received a request to amend municipal plan of Shediac to amend the designation of the property. The PID on the residential map and R2. The bylaws at 1444 for the lot and residential zone, medium density, to allow the building of another care center. The council studied the file to determine if it's in the public interest to amend the municipal plan and bylaw. Be it resolved that the clerk publish a public notice and that public presentation be set for February 22nd in the council chambers. And that advice be sought for the commission. And the public hearing be held on March 29th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. in council chambers. I so move, Your Worship, and I have a couple questions. Moved by Councillor Paul. Councillor Paul, why do we have to wait another month? Because it's according to the municipal plan. The presentation will be done in February, and public hearing will have to be held the following month. In the bylaw, we would need a public presentation, but for the amendment of the municipal municipal plan, yes. So we need authorization to go ahead with this project. So with these 2 different months is going to create a problem whatsoever with the timelines? You have to do 3 readings at 2 different meetings. The next time will go before the PRAC, the first reading. It's the same timeline, but we'll just have 1 meeting extra. I just don't want any delays here or any problems arising. I just want to go ahead with this. I think this protest will be completed even before they receive an answer from the province. So that'll go to around April, so we'll go through the process before that time. This is the law, so we have to live with it. Moved by Councillor Paul. Carried. So that's it for recommendations of Regional Services Commission. Thank you. So unfinished business now. Luc Bourgeois, Riverside Drive. I'm going to ask Marc and Régent because they worked on the file. You had a request for development on Riverside, and we had a recommendation because there was an impact on projects we discussed with council. So the recommendation tonight for this project, for it to go ahead, I'm going to ask Marc to present. Hello. This is for an extension of services for water and sidewalks on Riverside. So the frontage of the lots are at 60%. So we want the city to cover 60% of the infrastructure and the developer to do the other 40%. So that's the recommendation. Questions from councillors? Councillor Gilles. I don't have any questions. I think it's a project to develop this part. We pay our part, developer pays his part, so I think we should go ahead and accommodate, like I said earlier, our developers and business people to increase our tax base. So I move that we accept the 60-40% as described. Moved by Councillor Gilles, seconded by Jean-Claude. Councillor Paul, a question? 60% of what? That's the amount. It's about, for water, 63,500. Oh, so we're not talking about millions here. Good. Moved by Councillor Gilles, seconded by Councillor Jean-Claude. So recommendation to pay 60% of this construction. 11.2. A request from citizens, Sebastien Street. You remember in November, 2 citizens came to ask questions about events that took place on August 10 on 2019, the heavy rains that we had. So we had the chance the last month and a half to meet with the team and asked questions to get answers. A former employee we spoke to. The employees from 2019 are not with us anymore, but we talked to one who was there that day. He gave us a complete report. The first question that was asked was, does the municipality study the construction plans before the studies? We have subdivision guidelines for subdivision, which are in place for a few years, and developers must follow those guidelines. They have that responsibility. And when the project is finished, we do a walkthrough to make sure everything's done. Yes, we can answer that the town knows about this. All the standards were followed. It was around 2013 or 2014 that was approved. And yes, the guidelines were followed. The other question concerning maintenance of storm sewers. The town has a management plan, and every new infrastructure is part of the management plan as well as the old ones. So we do maintenance, and we have a lifespan for each of them, and we know when we have to replace them. And our plan for all that is up to date. So we follow. There's always room for improvement, however. We're working on this daily, so we're at ease with the way we proceed at the moment. It's okay to add new procedures, but you have to respect those ones. Were certain things removed, and who said so? I don't know. Yes, ICDs were removed, and it was confirmed by this person, former employee. And the reason is that the ICDs were removed because it was to improve draining. We had drainage problems, so it was to solve that problem with the drainage. So ICD was put into place. Would it have reduced anything? An engineer said that because of that rainstorm, it was exceptional, so he didn't say that we needed to change anything. And it was confirmed as well that when they removed a manhole, they had the impression that the water left, but it wasn't in the bottom of Rue Sebastien, it was at the top. And the water ran off, and it was just a coincidence. It was going so fast. And he said it wasn't because they took the manhole out that made the water go so fast. That wasn't the reason. The other question, a question for the engineer. Were there draining pipes that were plugged, and could that reduce the capacity of water that runs in the pipes? We didn't really get an answer on that. In principle, no. But the torrential rains that we got on August 10th could have an impact. Yes. It wasn't a problem that we should address at normal times. So that was it for the questions that were asked. And Councillor Bryant as well asked questions. One was similar, I think. No, my two questions about construction on Sebastien Street, did the developer follow the standards? And he just confirmed, yes, he followed the standards. Did the town change the installation? And we got the answer, yes. But it did not negatively impact. And 4 questions to Monsieur Jean-François Dugas. Yes, I think he answered them about the drainage and what it had affected, etc. In November at the meeting, you asked the residents if there was any request for reimbursement. We received one and we sent it to our insurance company. So we're waiting for confirmation. So we'll probably receive a second one. So those are the updates I have for this file. Questions from councillors? Councillor Laura, thank you, Your Worship. The Local Government Act, Part 16. I know that on Sebastien, I know what happened, but we had problems on other streets again as well. The water was just coming from the sky. I don't think anything was done wrong by the town, but we're covered under Local Governance Act, aren't we? As we're protected against lawsuits for such events. Councillor Jean, yes, the town manager sent us a letter from a citizen, and I'm happy that he says that happy to say that he sent it to the insurance company and our legal advisors. So it seems he had good cause to do it. The residents had a right to send this request, and we must ensure that we're not at fault. And if we are at fault, then we must pay. That's why we have insurance. That's 11.2. So we've added 11.3. Councillor Laura, do you want to add something? I prepared a letter on the weekend that I wanted to read. I asked Council to table the decision on the construction of City Hall. Firstly, with the pandemic today and uncertainty and costs of construction that are increasing, we're at 3 months from a municipal election. It would be difficult for the next elected officials. As well, there's a perception of having a lack of information and transparency in this file. We have repairs and infrastructure that we have to do now, and we have to look at the future of the town. Please think well about what you're doing. We need much more discussions on this subject, not only in committees, but with the full council. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Laura. Councillor Servi, first of all, I need a seconder for your motion. Councillor Servi seconds the recommendation of Councillor Laura to table this point for later. I'm not asking to table it, I'm just asking for discussions within the council to approve the project. To table, you said you wanted to table the decision, yes. So is your intention to table it or to have discussions? Yes, I worked on this all weekend, so I kept changing it. I really want to table the decision, yes. Madam Deputy Mayor, thank you, Your Worship. I would like to add that the City Hall Committee that I preside, that we're working on this file. We working last week. We got more information, and we met with the Spitfire team, and we had committee meeting with management, members of Spitfire to get more details. So they're working on the costs and they should send that to us by Friday. I think we should have a meeting on Monday, a special meeting to discuss this project because at the time being we don't have the cost or the details of the project and expenses are rising drastically. I want to add that perhaps we should not table it before we have discussions on costs of the project and the rest of the information that we should receive before Friday. So figures will be available? Yes, we would have more information. Councillor Jean-Claude, I agree that we should table this because we don't have all the information. We say we're going to build, but we haven't looked any further. We have a building here, and I look around town, and there are buildings for rent. There's floors that moved. Everything's going to be empty. What's going to happen with this building when we leave? We have spaces to rent here. I think we should do a study. What's the value on this one? Should we buy, rent, and how much would the repairs cost? It could be done over a few years. We have a pandemic, and at the end of it, our businesses will need us. If we put all our eggs in one basket, perhaps we will be able to help them. So I think we should wait. And we also have an election coming. We may have all different councillors around the table. I think it's a good idea to table it. And not to go too quickly. We were elected here to take good decisions, and big amounts can affect the debt of the town. I think we should be careful. Plans like this, it's not just like building a house. Councillor Jean-Claude. Councillor Gilles. I have to take a deep breath. Obviously, I am totally in disagreement with Councillor Galland and support of Councillor Bertin. We have a process that started when we were elected in 2016. We know that in 4 years from now, we'll have to leave. We have to make changes. We must make a decision. We said we sent out an RFP to see if renting was the better method. We had 3 options. We saw after negotiation we had a lot of requests from the municipality, from people, not just a small group that want to change the whole process by political movements or people that thought they didn't want to get involved in municipal affairs. But we wanted to take decisions on what the figures are. We don't even know. And you want to table it without even knowing the figures. What kind of decision is that? Councillor Bertin said we were elected to make decisions. Yes, you don't see the football at the end of the field for the next council. Yes, let's have the balls to make decisions. We went through the whole process to be able to do that. Patricia managed the presidency with this committee, and she pushed it. And finally, we're going to have the cost of what it's going to cost. On Friday, now we're asking for a meeting, and Patricia said she wants a special meeting with the whole council to discuss it next Monday. So I think, and I'm trying to understand why you want to table something when we were unanimous to want to build. Not 2 or 3.4 against 4. Nothing like that. No, unanimously we want to build. Now, some councils were saying, no, perhaps. No, we're not the federal government. We're not going to keep studying this for the rest of our days, otherwise we'll accomplish nothing. We have to go ahead now. So I'm going to vote against this motion. Thank you, Councillor Gilles. I know this is a subject, it's very dynamic. So that we have passions here with some of these subjects. Where does this come from, all these ideas? We have sufficient time to discuss this. The first committee was created, and we took a decision to build rather than rent. The second committee was created, and we asked to work with an architect. We've already put money in that project, a lot of money. We have a process that we haven't even given a chance. And the arguments I hear tonight from Councillor Bertin and Galland, that should be done at the committee to take the decision whether we should rent or build. It should have been done then. Now we're in the middle of a process. It's not an architect, but we have Spitfire that is doing a lot of work. And like Councillor Bryan says, we don't even know the price. And we want to refuse to go ahead with the process. So, Your Worship, I want to know why you created a committee if tonight we can just close it up. For what reason? We say we're in a pandemic, and you say we're already ahead of construction. Look, I have a bunch of research here that says that now it's the time to start construction to encourage our builders. In 5-10 years from now, who says it's going to be less expensive than it is today? Or maybe further down the road, it's going to cost less. We're talking about the debt, but you don't even know the price. What's the percentage that's going to be touched when you don't know the price? I had understood that this committee, there was an honest effort made to come back with the full council with a price. And at that time, like I said from the beginning, if it was the recommendation of the finance control with objections, not what we heard on the street. No, we don't recommend that this project go ahead because the debt is increased too much and we don't have the means. That would be the first to object to this project. I would never go against the recommendation of the financial controller, but we're not even giving him a chance to do his work. And we're not giving council the chance to do his work. We're supporting measures to finish the project tonight. What do you do with all the work that was done in that committee? The population wants a city hall. You're saying you're putting all eggs in one basket. We have lots of buildings. We had options. We could have stayed here. It was rejected unanimously. We had the option to go see other places, other buildings, and rent, and it was rejected unanimously. And then we've had proposals. We looked at a building on Victoria. Unanimously, once again, it was accepted. I have difficulty understanding respectfully. So let's respect the reason why we were elected, not to do the work for the next council, but the council that it was elected, us. And we're at the 11th hour now, within a year. And then we're going to have to start paying renting. And if there's reasons, yes. But we don't have any facts right now. I find this very difficult to say. All of a sudden, we have elections. We've already mentioned that in committees. And then when we said by the time of the elections, if we follow the process, we would have accepted. That would be next week because of the price, or we would refuse because of the price. But it has got nothing to do with the next council. This would be next week, and work will be starting. Our home objections will be objective. Councillor Raymond? We have councillors with different perspectives, and that's fine. Councillor Laurent, and then Paul and Jean-Claude. Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to answer. You said it was decisions taken by committees and committees and committees. That's what you mention all the time. This is too big a file just for committees. Council was not implicated in this from the beginning. It was only the committee. And after that, it was another committee. There's no transparency. Nothing tells us that the owner of this building said, I'll sell you the building for such a cost, and it'll cost so much for repairs. Nothing was done for this street. We built Chesley Street because it would be exit and entry into the town. And then we would see City Hall here. And now you want to build elsewhere? That drives me crazy because we're putting a lot of money into this. We had an estimate of 5 million, and then it went up to 7 million. So what are the figures? They're going up too fast. We have no options. We didn't look at the other options, and that's what I don't like. We haven't looked at any other options. So I'm going to continue with my motion. Councillor Paul, Councillor Jean-Claude, and then Councillor Paul. I can't support, especially after Raymond said, let's go ahead with the process, and if next week, and I want to congratulate Councillor Patricia and management. Councillor Raymond refers to management, and they've done a lot of work up until now. When we had to build the roof on the arena, they told us how much it was cost. For the fire station too. When we have the figures, I'm looking forward to them, and we'll make a decision whether it's Monday next. But I can't support this request at this time. I'm disappointed myself as well. Councillor Pond. What concerns me the most is everybody's talking about helping the economy. If we go ahead with the building, we'll have a beautiful building that will be empty for many years, and it will look very good at the entrance into town. And I agree with Councillor Raymond. We all have our opinions. We are going through a process, and we see what's happening. People that come up to me and talk to me, yes, some people want a new city hall. Some people are concerned about other things, sidewalks in town. We can't do everything. We must watch everything. We can't even meet in a group. We have to use Skype and FaceTime. It is very difficult. We give information. And the Patricia, of course, is working very hard. I don't want to take anything away from her or anybody here at City Hall. Everybody works very hard, but we can't just look ahead for 5 years. It's not going to be our building. It's going to be the community's building. And like Councillor just said, I wasn't here when they talked about it, of building a new City Hall, but we've been discussing a lot and more details recently, and things are not going well. Businesses will need our help. I was manager of a store for many years. They pay taxes and surplus to help the town. Are we going to be able to help them? All these stores and restaurants that walk the streets every day. And if we walk down here, we're going to be stuck with this building that's going to be empty. I understand the processes of committees being created. This is my opinion, and I respect your opinions as well. So, this is my opinion. Thank you. Councillor Raymond. With respect to transparency, it's been transparent. It's the whole council that took the decision not to rent but to build. Secondly, it's the full council to accept the committee that you created to study the construction. 3, it would be the full council to take the final decision when the process is finished and the costs are known to go ahead or not with the construction. We can't stop the committee right now. So the whole question of the town, and I always talked about economic development, but that's not a factor if we should build or not. This building, whether it's empty or vacant, there's other buildings as well. There probably will be in federal offices as well. People are working from home, but those are not factors that are important. We should have said that way back when we had discussion. We discussed this building. It was one of the 3 options. And we decided that for reasons mentioned at the time, we preferred going elsewhere. So I don't see what the problem is. Why can't the committee keep doing its work? If you stop halfway, you eliminate the committee. If you say that it's more important for it to be in the full council, I would say that I haven't seen anything since 1995 that I've been here. Everything was important to bring to the full council. There's nothing different here, and it's the full council that will make the final decision. So we're talking about 5 million. The controller says 7 million. He can say that, he can guess, but we haven't got our figures yet. We don't know. We could have figures that are unacceptable. We could probably get less than 7 million as a figure. What happened to the money that we've put into this project already? And at the end of our mandate this year, if we have to go to rent for 5 years, you get another $1 million from taxpayers because we could take a decision here to build or not to build. If we receive objective reasons, not arguments that we could have stated, that we didn't state, but if we have good reasons, yes, if not, we build, because if we don't do that, we take the money of the taxpayers on January 31st, 2021. And it'll cost us how much? 4 or 5 years? Yes, I listen to people talking in the streets. Yes, all I ask for is to go ahead with the process and let's make decisions according to facts, not on artificial questions. It's very nice when you drive down here, but in the downtown it would be nice too. We would have preferred that it be downtown because people used to walk there. They would walk to the council meetings. I don't want to keep going, but I'm very disappointed that we even would think about this. You can't stop midway and say, the committee's not going exactly where I want to go, so we're going to put an end to it. Councillor Raymond, Councillor Sylvie, with respect to the two committees created and that worked very hard, I still want to support the recommendation of Councillor Laurent. I spoke to many people, several people during the past week, and I was elected to represent people in the municipality. And those people were very concerned about a large amount of money on a building. If it belonged to us, it would be an asset. But right now, with the pandemic, they're very concerned. So thank you for all your comments. I listened to you. I heard them. But to me, democracy will speak. And if we continue, we will look at the figures and we'll vote again. But for now, I maintain what I said earlier. So we're talking 2 or 3 times each person. I'm going to say something at the end. Councillor Gilles. I wanted the mayor's perspective. Councillor Laura. Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to say the problem with this is that I never saw a council put such a lot on the backs of the new council elected to make this decision, and they'll be responsible for our decision because the finance director says that we have until next Wednesday. If we build, we need something from the province before the 3rd of February. And it's close to the elections. That's what I don't like about this situation. The first committee made decisions, but were questions asked. Firstly, to the person who owns this building. Another point is how much would it cost to build another? We didn't receive those answers from the committee. I haven't heard any. We have an election coming. So, to me, that stinks. Regent? Your Worship, I heard my name mentioned many times. I'm not an architect. The scenario that I presented, where there was an amount of $7 million, we were conscious of the process and that council would have to make a decision quickly It was during a working meeting, not a public meeting, is when we gave you that figure, just to give you an idea of the effects it would have on our debt ratio. It's a working exercise, a scenario of 7 million. I have no expertise to evaluate a city hall. My name was mentioned several times, but I was giving you a work scenario. I could have given you another figure if you had asked me at that time. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you. Thank you. I see within our members we have concerns, and that's fine. It's an expense, a very big expense, whatever price it is. It's not just a few $1,000s. Our objective is to well manage our funds from our taxpayers. I contribute as citizen as well as everybody else in town. We want to make the good decision responsibly as managers of public funds. If I knew the right decision with certainty, no, I don't know it. I wish I had. But I don't always know the right decision to make. But I have something that tells me that I'm not convinced right now. I still have questions, as well as several of you. Once we have figures from the architect who'll give us a good estimate, we'll have that information. It's not worth gold, but it's better than a guess. After that, we'll need an analysis of costs versus other options available at other costs. What would the difference be in prices? What could we do with that money rather than putting it in investments? What would the advantages be, the benefits? I see this subject brings out passions, and that's okay. I've always thought that each member of council wants only the good of the municipality. We express this different ways, and that's fine. That's why we're a municipal council. For the moment, I would like to have more information. What I've seen to date brings up questions in both senses. I'm not convinced one way or the other, but I seem to be leaning towards one side more, but I want more information before I make a final decision, and I encourage you all to do the same exercise. What is important for you, for each of you? At this time, we had a good conversation. Councillor Galland is absent tonight, and we have a motion to table. I'm going to ask you for a vote on this motion. Then we'll see what the results are, and then we'll go ahead in accordance with that. Councillor Laurent and Councillor Sylvie want to table this construction of City Hall. Are there any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. 3 aye. Contrary-minded, nay. 4 nay. So the motion is defeated. As Deputy Mayor said, We'll have additional information soon. The council will meet again and we'll have discussions and we'll have new information to help us to make a decision.
Peut-être un peu ce soir, va nous épargner peut-être un petit peu de temps une prochaine.
We've discussed it a bit tonight, so perhaps we'll have to spend less time on it next time, but I do encourage discussions
Tout en respectant l'opinion de l'autre.
while respecting the opinions of others, even if it's contrary to what you believe.
Conseiller Jean-Claude?
Councillor Jean-Claude, is it possible to see what the sale price would be for this building? If we got the figures, it would help us make a decision as well. I asked the question when we started. Do we know how much this building is worth? We never asked. The city never got the price. Is it something that we could do, or do we have to wait till later? We hadn't mandated management to do that. I'm not saying that we can't do that, but right now council voted to look at construction costs, and then we can mandate management either tonight or another time to look at these figures. If it's decision of council at that time to say no, we want to see these figures, and then we'll be able to make an enlightened decision, and we could go in that direction. But it depends upon all of you, not just me. Councillor Bryan, to answer to Councillor Bertin, this building is part of the 3 initial proposals that were rejected to develop this property. And I was on the initial committee and the present committee, and like Councillor Raymond said, let the process go ahead and then we'll make decisions afterwards. We're making suppositions now. We can't add timelines anymore. We have to get out of here December 31st, 2021. If there are contractors and developers in the building, well, you know that a building isn't built in 6 months. If it's not started, it can't be built either. If it starts 1 year from now, let's let the process go. The lease is up at the end of December 2021, so that's our deadline. There are things council can do, the municipality can do to lighten this on this side. If we have to rent for a while longer, we can decide that together. So we'll do it at a council meeting. Councillor Raymond, last word. I think we have to remain objective and not talk about renting. We just finished saying we're going to go ahead with the process. So why are you saying we're going to look for other means? It's like saying we won't have our city hall, we're not ready to build it. I thought we were going to go ahead with the process. Councillor Bertin talks about this building. It's not just this building. If you open the process, it's for everybody that from whom we received proposals. We can't just accept 2 or 3 proposals and reject all of them and think, oh, well, we just like it here, so we're just going to stay here. That's discrimination because we've had other proposals yes, in the process, the RFP process, yes, but that's closed. But you can't invite this one without inviting all the others as well. I'm just saying it's possible that we can decide something. We're not going to be homeless. Well, that's not my point. I'm just saying that if I was one of the developers that give a proposal to build, and all of a sudden you're deciding we're not going to build for objective reasons, you can't just go back just that one developer. You have to go to the others as well. Council will have to decide that. But you already asked for the proposals objectively, and then you're eliminating a third who already presented his proposal. If the process starts again, you're going to have to do the same thing. If the process starts over again, we'll have another process. We'll have to have the same recommendations that we should talk about way about too, the same way that we're talking about this building. I understand what you're saying, or at least I think so. We voted, and then we're going to continue with the process, and we'll see next. Okay, we'll talk about the process, but don't talk about renting at the end of December 31st, 2021. Councillor Law. Councillor Cormier, I don't agree with you because the first RFPs that were sent out was for construction. I'm not looking for construction here. I'm asking to stay here and a bit to buy the building. It's got nothing to do with the initial RFPs or construction or the others that sent their proposals. I'm just want to stay in this building. And perhaps we could fix it up gradually. Not to do construction here by the company that owns the building. I just want to buy this building. We're responsible for the money of citizens. It's not only this building, there are other buildings in town, so we should look to see which one offers the best price. I'm sure other people have spoke to you as well. There are empty buildings in town, so we can't just limit ourselves to this building. We have to look to see what's better for the cost, for the taxpayers. Councillor Raymond, thank you. Number 12, a new business. A point brought up by management. We have requests from councillors as well. Item number 13, anything? Councillor Paul, for Providence Street, we referred to zoning. I would like to go farther than that. I don't know how to make it more official, but I would like management to work more closely with the Committee on Providence Inc., and I would like to go further as well. I hope the new villa be established here. So what happens with the present villa? I don't know if it's Danny or Gilles that's responsible for this file, and ad hoc committee perhaps with the mayor, just to work on this process. We're talking about revenues and tax base, but this is a game changer. I was happy to hear the announcement So she'll tell me how we can go ahead with this officially. I don't know what to do. Is it in a mandate, Danny? We're working closely with the employees, with Marc and Ronald and executive director. The commission is implicating. We're amending the zoning. Communication is excellent with them, but for the time being, they have to make a request. But if they want anything, they know they can knock it on our doors. We're working closely with the Regional Services Commission and zoning and future plans. We were wanting the executive director to come and meet council to see what he can do for the future. Thank you, that's all. We still have our policies, incentive policies that apply as well. It was confirmed. Councillor Gilles, on a positive note, I know council knows, but I wanted to say publicly, the marina received a total of $500,000 from Disaster Relief Fund. So the marina received $500,000, so that's positive. So they'll be able to continue phase 2, and the marina will be as good as any other marina in Atlantic Canada. Next item. Now we're at bylaws. We sent a support letter for Villa Providence here in Chiriac. Have we had any contacts with the provincial government? Not management, no. If there's a request, it can be done quickly. I want to ensure that the Municipal Council of Chiriac supports that project, like Councillor Paul said, is very important for the town of Chiriac. So we would support this request. Yes? Yes, we have to support that request. Perfect. We could do that. Yes, so we've followed the process, the RFP, and that. I think we should meet the local deputy. We could go to Fredericton. We have to move on this. It's a big project. 50 or 60 years ago, when they built that one, they went through the same process. If it's a support letter or a trip to Fredericton or meet the Minister of Health, we really have to do something for that project, for Villa Providence. Anything we can do for them to make the file go ahead, we should do, even if it's set up traffic lights. At page 149, Councillor Paul, for the reading. First reading, bylaw number 62. First reading, bylaw number 62. Chiriac Municipal Bylaw designated portions of roads accessible to off-road vehicles. Second reading, bylaw number 62, Chiriac Municipal Bylaw designated portions of roads accessible to off-road vehicles. Moved by Councillor Paz, seconded by Councillor Patricia. Bylaw number 62, Shediac Municipal Bylaw designated portions of roads accessible to off-road vehicles. Councillor Paz. That we accept by first reading bylaw number 2 by title. For the first, moved by Paz, seconded by Deputy Mayor Patricia. All those in favor say by saying yes. Contrary minded, no. Adopted. For the second, by title, moved by Councillor Paz, seconded by Deputy Mayor Patricia. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. Carried. So we need third reading for this one. Yes, the first two. We'll have to wait for the province for authorization. They'll come back quickly because we have 6 months between second and third readings. The next, Councillor Jean-Claude, first reading of bylaw number Z 1444-35 Z. A bylaw amending zoning bylaw. The bylaw titled Z 1444-35 Z bylaw amending zoning bylaw of the town of Shediac be authorized and be read by title for first reading by title. You're moving? Moved by Councillor Jean-Claude, seconded by Councillor Gilles. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Carried. Bylaw number Z 1444-35 C, bylaw amending zoning bylaw number Z 1444 of the town of Shediac. I move that we accept a first reading of bylaw number Z 1444-35 Z by title. Moved by Councillor Jean-Claude, seconded by Councillor Gilles. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. Carried. I have to leave now for the next bylaws. Bylaw said 1444-36 said bylaw amending zoning bylaws at 1444 of the town of Shediac. That bylaw number Z 1444-36 said amending zoning bylaw be authorized and be read in first reading by title. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. Carried. Bylaw number Z 1444-36 said a bylaw amending zoning bylaw number Z 1444 of the town of Shediac. You said 37. We're at 36. Oh, I went too far. On page 170, start again. Bylaw number Z 1444-36 said of the town city. I move that we accept by the first reading bylaw number Z 1444-36 said first reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, may. Carried. Patricia again. First reading of bylaw number Z 1444-37 Z, a bylaw amending the zoning. That bylaw number Z 1444-37 said a bylaw amending zoning bylaws Z 1444 of the town of Shediac be authorized and be read by title for first reading. Carried. Bylaw Z 4244-37Z, bylaw amending the zoning of the town of Shediac. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Reminded nay. Carried. Next. Councillor Shield. Thank you, Your Worship. First reading of bylaw number Z 1444-38Z, a bylaw amending zoning bylaw Beaubridge Street. That bylaw number Z 1444-38Z, amending zoning bylaw of the township be authorized and be read in first reading by title. I so move. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Bylaw number Z 1444-38Z, a bylaw amending zoning bylaw number Z 1444 of the town of Shediac. I so move that we accept by first reading bylaw number Z 1444-38Z by title. I so move. Moved by Councillor Gill, seconded by Councillor Jean-Claude. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried. Councillor Laurent. First reading of bylaw number 63, a bylaw relating to permanently close a portion of Chesley Street. That bylaw titled bylaw number 63 to close a portion of Chesley Street permanently be authorized and be read by in first reading by title. Moved by Councillor Laurent, seconded by Councillor Paul. What is it closing the street? To explain the situation, when we bought the property expropriated, that street became a future street because we wanted to do a roundabout. So all that section was designated as a future street completely. So there's part of it that we want to sell to AML. So we have to use the designation to close the street. It's not to close the whole of Chesley, just for those lots, yes. It's part of a lot that's really not a street. It's a bit odd. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Bylaw number 63, a bylaw relating to permanently close a portion of Chesley Street. Councillor Laurent, I so move that we accept first reading bylaw number 63 by title. Moved by Councillor Laurent, seconded by Deputy Mayor Patricia. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried. Street closing Chesley Street, whereas 10(1)P of the Local Government Act authorizes municipal council to permanently close roads, streets, the highways, or portions therefore. And whereas it is deemed in the public interest that a portion of Chesley Street totaling 7,690 square meters and as shown in Schedule A as parcel 20A be permanently closed to all forms of traffic. Be it resolved that the Department of Transportation Infrastructure approve the closing of a portion of Chesley Street relating to bylaw number 63, a bylaw related to permanently close a portion of Chesley Street. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. Carried. We already took steps with the Department of Transportation about this because the roundabout with the exits is provincial, but we've received from the Department of Transportation that's no problem. We have already approached the department, and we surprised to see that we got the answer in 1 week. So the resolution is good because we made a request related to this resolution. So Department of Transportation says for the decisions, it's all possible, and we'll receive the decision soon. Thank you. Now we're on page 187. Councillor Laurent. For sale of Chesley Street, IML Homes Limited, whereas municipal council adopted the bylaw on November 30th, and the construction of Building 3 needs a conditional zoning. And whereas council and developer are in agreement to transfer a portion of properties in conformity with the rezoning, it be it resolved that council authorizes signatories conclude a contract to sell the property belonging to the town of Shediac in the amount of $38,000. The council authorized the signatories conclude a contract to buy a portion of the lot, a part belonging to the developer in the amount of $16,000. Be it resolved that this transaction depends on a document of purchase and sale. Moved by Councillor Laurent, seconded by Councillor Jean-Claude. This amount includes taxes, should be in brackets. So 38,000 is for the purchase and sale agreement. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. Now I think Councillor Sylvie can come back in. Now I'm on page 227. Councillor Jean-Claude for the reading. Linguistics. Adjudication for contract to buy snow removal equipment. To buy equipment for snow removal for sidewalks from company McFarland's And to add the option to increase to 115 horsepower for $12,000. And the option to add to the hydraulic system as well. And to exchange trackless model on this transaction, the amount of $10,000. I have a question. Can you add options after the RFP has gone out? Yes, it was in the RFP for the motor. We wanted a more powerful motor, so it was in the options. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. Councillor Savy again. Adoption of capital budgets projects from General Capital Fund. Whereas planning for capital projects for 2021 must go ahead, be it resolved that we accept planning projects. General Capital Fund, Weldon Street, renewal of infrastructures, financing, gas tax, $1,200,000, improvement of storm sewers, borrowing $1,500,000, Saint Joseph Street, $170,000. Capital Fund, water, Weldon Street, renewal infrastructures, gas tax $450,000, Saint Joseph Street, renewal $205,000. I just wanted to mention to the council, we're not going into borrowing for those options. We're just looking for engineering plans for those projects. We want them to start in the spring. So we're due for the planning. So this is engineering fees for these projects for this time. The 10-year plan will be presented in a few days, in a few weeks. And at that time, you can approve financing. So this is just to approve the planning for engineering projects. Councillor Poyle. Thank you, Richard. And we discussed at length for the new building, so it'll be the same equation. Yes, those projects will be included with others as well. Thank you. Councillor Laurent, thank you, Your Worship. Improvement for storm source, that would be Sebastien Street. They're not linked to any street in particular. It's just work that has had to be done to the sewers. Councillor Savy moved. Councillor Shiz seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. Carried. Councillor Savy. Adoption of special projects for the budget, whereas in budgetary deliberations of 2021, $1,323,000 was reserved in account 128253 capital funds For projects not determined by council, be resolved that following projects be paid on this budget line. Moving of the cenotaph, $25,000. Regional Green Strategy, $25,000. Tourist Strategy, $50,000. I chose Shadiac Strategy, $60,000. Contributions to projects in downtown, $16,800. Public Works Equipment, $60,000. Fire protection vehicles, $55,000. Improvement project, nothing. Youth infrastructure, $30,000. New city hall, $636,000. Nature park parking, nothing. Cloud server, $25,000. Highway sounds, nothing. Pumping station for RVs, nothing. Rotary Park, balance phase one, $40,000. A new sidewalks, 10-year plan, $200,000. And St. Joseph Street, nothing. Réjean, the reason why there was zero on certain lines at budgetary deliberations, you asked us to add some projects that interested you. And then afterwards, at other deliberations, you told us in a meeting, work group meetings, that you said those projects were going ahead. So you can always change it and put projects back on or remove others. So these are your discussions to date, essentially. Thank you for the clarification. I was asking myself that same question. Councillor Legault. Thank you, Your Worship. At the last meeting we had, when we discussed Saint Joseph Street, it was like $200,000. I put it in borrowing. 170,000, 200,000, and moving the cenotaph. Are we going to do that? We're not sure. It depends what happens next Monday. That's true. If yes, Mr. Municipal Manager, we could say that it will go ahead, essentially. It would be better if you removed it tonight. I can remove it from the list, and if you want to put it back later, we could do that. Okay. Perfect. Thank you for that clarification. Councillor Paul, I'm going to take your question, and then we'll amend the resolution. Councillor Paul. For Saint Joseph Street, we have a budget. We're going to remove and add other things on the budget. There was a budget line with $1,300,000, and you approved it globally, but you did specify which projects to go ahead with. That was in October. The cenotaph, I don't want to start a huge discussion about that now. We're asking for a motion. Some of them are chosen, and some of them we have to go ahead with. You have to give us your agreement. But the amount has to be equal to the amount of $1,300,000. You can leave a balance on that budget and pick it up later. So you could remove that and put it on to the new city hall line. If you did that, you'd put them two of them together. We wanted to do improvements. So I would leave the money there. It was planned in the budget to do improvements on the cenotaph. Councillor Gilles, Conseil Paul, I'm asking the question. Moved by Sylvie, seconded by Patricia. Do you want to leave that amount there or remove it and add it later once we make a decision? I moved, but if you're talking about the improvement of the cenotaph and not moving it, if we could eliminate the word moving it, or we could put cenotaph in brackets, moving and improvement, it would be more precise. I thought we might receive Excel to work on this week, but we haven't received it. Well, it's on the screen right now. So we could put cenotaph for right now and change the designation. Just put the word cenotaph. And if we don't spend the money, the amount stays there. And we can get back to it later. Councillor Paul. We're voting on tonight. So all that what we voted on tonight, tomorrow morning, they're going to start working on it in Public Works. For that reason, I don't think we should have anything for the cenotaph. The finance director told us to remove it if we're not going to spend it. If we leave it there, they could spend it tomorrow and we couldn't do anything. Yes, they would have the mandate. I thought we changed it to either improve it or move it. That's what I understood. There were certain work items that were planned on the site. We'll remove that line. We'll get back to it later. Because to remove it or to improve it would be two different amounts. So we'll have to see what the figures are. If you want to amend the resolution, in consequence, you can do that. Otherwise, we'll vote as it is. So we'll vote as it is now. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded. 1 nay. Carried. Last thing. Nominations to committees. I have an addition. 3-1, a committee, economic development for the town of Shediac. We approached 3 business people that agreed to participate in the development of a growth strategy, so a task force. So I recommend to accept Monsieur Léon de Boisvert, Bro, Book. Voivert is another guy I know. Leon Book, Jean-Claude Léger, and Mr. James McKenna. So I need a motion. James McKenna. So I need a motion to adjourn, moved by Deputy Mayor. Thank you.